one day somebody does something unspeakable to someone else, to someone you hardly knew, and you do something about it, because you can.
This story comes to us from NPR News. The M is for Minnesota. NPR has learned that the police chief in the small southern Minnesota city of St. Peter intervened to prevent federal immigration agents from taking a local resident into detention, although the city of St. Peter denied the intervention in a statement. Now, it's believed to be the first time a local police department in Minnesota intervened in a federal law enforcement action since the surge in immigration enforcement began 2 months ago. The resident, a woman, had been observing and recording video of immigration enforcement actions from her car Thursday afternoon when agents took her into custody. The woman, who did not want to be identified because she fears for her safety, is a U.S. citizen and a resident of St. Peter in Minnesota. She told NPR News in an interview that she was out in the community in her car tracking the movements of federal agents and recording them on a dash cam. She shared that video with NPR News. Agents in 3 vehicles began chasing her and trying to force her to pull over. Eventually, they box her in. 3 of the agents get out of the car in front of her with their guns drawn, and they try to force her out of the vehicle. They were yelling, "Get out of the car, get out of the car," they screamed at her repeatedly, while she calmly responded, "No, I will not get out of the car." Now, while she's alone in the car, the woman can be heard talking with other observers on speakerphone, and she tells them to call 911. The agents open the door, which unlocked automatically when she put the gear shift in park. They drag her out and force her to the ground. She said the agents were overly aggressive and physical as they pinned her down and handcuffed her, leaving her with multiple cuts, scrapes, and bruises. The woman's husband eventually arrives and tries to intervene, and he made a separate recording of the interaction on his phone. He tells the agents not to search her car because they don't have a warrant and it would be an illegal search. The agents appear dismissive of his constitutional concerns. Absolutely. They don't care about the Constitution. They care about being bullies. He said, "I'm not getting into the legality of everything," said one agent. NPR News interviewed the woman and her husband, who also doesn't want to be identified, fearing retaliation. The woman said the agents put her into one of their vehicles and started driving toward the Twin Cities, which is Minneapolis-St. Paul, presumably to the Whipple Federal Building near the Minnesota airport, where ICE has an immigration detention facility. About 20 minutes into the drive, she says one of the agents got a call, apparently from an ICE supervisor. Says, "I couldn't hear what was being said, but within 30 seconds after they hung up, they exited on an exit that goes into Le Sueur, and then turned around, didn't say anything to me, and started heading back towards St. Peter." The husband told NPR News that after his wife was taken into custody, he called his attorney, and soon after he got a call from St. Peter Chief of Police Matt Groschow, whom he said he has known for years. Said, "I was talking to him, kind of venting some of my frustrations," said the husband, adding that he urged the chief to have his officers just be more visible during the federal enforcement actions. Said if local police were present and they could see you, I promise you their behavior more than likely or hopefully would, be appropriate and law-abiding. I don't know about that. The husband says he talked to the chief for a while and we had a good conversation. He asked me, "What was your wife's name?" I told him my wife's name. He said, "Was she picked up in a Bronco?" I said, "I'm not sure, but it was a dark SUV. I'd have to look at my video." He goes, "I think I got her. I'll call you back." The husband said a few minutes later the chief called again and said, "I got her, or I'm bringing her home." Of course, the husband says he was relieved that she got released and was able to come home. the agents took the woman to the St. Peter police station, where she says Chief Groschow approached her, spoke with her, and had her get into his squad car and took her home. He said he knew where I lived already because he had already been in contact with my husband, said the woman. He started talking to me like he just couldn't believe how terrible it was, what was happening. And he was so sorry and so scared for me and that type of thing. And he was so upset by what they're doing to our community. Now, in an email, to end it here, to NPR News, Chief Groschow confirmed that ICE agents turned the woman over to him and he then drove the woman home. There's a quote there. But, you know, the thing is, I'm going to stop it here. U.S. citizen recording ICE agents. And then all of a sudden, boom, they surround her car, pull her out, throw her on the ground, and arrest her. All she's doing is recording the police. And when the husband comes up and starts talking Constitution, the ICE agent says, I'm not going to get into the legality of it, which is interpreted, I don't care about your constitutional rights. I'm a federal agent. That's what that's interpreted as. And so when I tell people, look, this isn't America anymore. This is a third world communist country or dictatorship. People get upset and they go, oh, you leftist liberal. No, what is this? U.S. citizen exercising her First Amendment rights, and her First Amendment, 14th Amendment, and 4th Amendment are violated right away? With a law enforcement officer saying, well, I'm not going to get into the legality of all of this. What, my constitutional rights? You're not going to get into the legality of my constitutional rights? But that's where we're at, guys. That's where we're at. So when you hear me criticize immigration customs enforcement agents, I'm not like trying to, criticize legal, lawful law enforcement actions. I'm criticizing stuff like this, where they violate the Fourth Amendment right, where they violate the First Amendment right, and go, well, I'm not going to get into the legality of it. There's no legality. You're violating my civil rights. What are you talking about? That's when cops make up laws or they misinterpret, and you tell them the penal code and they go, well, I'm not going to hold court on the street. That's interpreted as, I don't care if I do my job competently or right. I'm just out here to arrest people and let the judge figure it out. In other words, I don't care about the U.S. Constitution. I don't care about laws. I just have a badge. I tell you what to do and you say, ja, mein Führer. Yeah. That's American law enforcement. I tell you what to do and you say, ja, mein Führer. And you do it. I don't care about the law. I don't care about the Constitution. I only care that I have a badge and you'll obey me. But that's not how the U.S. Constitution was set up. That's not how this country was set up, with a set of laws and a constitution. And to paraphrase the Bible here, I'm not going to quote this reference because I got to look it up. But for time's sake, I'll just say it's kind of like this is in the Bible too, where a law enforcement officer comes up. If there's no law being broken, there's no lawbreaker. And therefore, the law enforcement have no authority. Does that make sense? Where there's no law being broken, there's no lawbreaker. Therefore, law enforcement has no authority. But the problem with American law enforcement is they think they have authority all the time on everyone. That's not true. This isn't Berlin in 1939. This is the United States of America in 2026. We still have laws, and even law enforcement officers have to abide by those laws. But they won't because they don't care. That's the problem. I want to know what you guys think about it. Let me know.